Okay, I'm here with Will Kempf. Will, just before we begin this, could you please read and sign this consent form that I hand you?
Yes, I can.
All right, thank you. Just to let you know, I will be recording this conversation. Do you have any questions before we begin?
I do not.
All right, sweet. So, start off, you tell me a little bit about yourself. How did you come to live here in Louisville and do what you do?
I am from Louisville, so I was born here. I've always lived here. I did my undergraduate degree at Center College. I'm back in Louisville now doing a master's in business administration, looking to get into medical sales, hopefully.
Awesome, sweet. Okay, so a little bit about the project is we'll be kind of designing a new way for Opal Ice to make nugget ice. I just want to find out a little bit about your ice experience and how you've dealt with ice and all that stuff, and especially nugget ice. That's the ice that Opal machines will be using. So, start off, how often do you use ice?
Probably once or twice every day when I come to work or leaving home with my drinks for the day.
Okay, and what kind of beverages do you usually use ice for? Is it like only water, or pretty much every drink that you have during the day or the week?
Most drinks that I have during the day or week, but I definitely always use ice when I'm drinking soda, not always water.
Okay, gotcha. I know people have a preference sometimes with like their ice shapes and everything, like some like the smaller ones, some like the nugget ice, which is Chick-fil-A, or the Crescent. So do you have a specific kind of ice that you like, and if so, why?
I probably do prefer the nugget ice. Chick-fil-A would be what I'd think of when I think of my favorite ice. The shape of it, the size of it, don't like it to be too big, don't like it to be too small. It's got a nice crunch to it. I'm a fan of the nugget ice.
I agree. And kind of another specific thing about ice is I know a lot of people like to eat it maybe after their drink's done or something. Do you usually eat your ice, or is that a priority for you when selecting maybe a type of ice?
Pretty much only when it's nugget ice will I eat it. I'll usually eat that because I enjoy it, but normally I don't eat normal ice like cubed ice or ice out of the fridge.
Okay. And like, do you use? Is it just like a preference thing, or is it like kind of like a fidget, or like just like there's something to do?
Probably just a preference thing, but maybe a bit of like an oral fixation thing too, just something to chew on, kind of like gum or something.
Okay, and still with eating ice, because it's a big thing with ice lovers. How often would you say you eat the ice when you have a drink?
Probably no more than once a week. I don't have nugget ice in my drinks that often, so when I do, I usually eat it, but I don't have nugget ice in my drinks that often, so probably once a week.
Okay, so away from eating ice, have you ever owned or seen an ice machine? Specifically like the ice machines for beverages.
I've never owned one. I think I've probably seen a handful, but I've also never worked in a restaurant or anything like that, so I haven't seen that many.
Okay. Have you ever bought ice from the store? Like maybe a grocery store, or I know a lot of gas stations sell the ice out front. Have you ever bought from there?
Yeah, maybe a couple or a few times a year, usually only for like parties or something, some kind of gathering over the summer, not very often.
Okay, yeah, that was the next question I had for you, is what's usually the occasion that you would go out and buy ice? Would you say it's more so for group gatherings or by yourself?
Definitely for group gatherings. I don't think I've ever bought ice for just myself.
Gotcha, you the ice person in charge of the ice there. Okay, when would you say that you usually use ice? Is it like I think you mentioned a little daily, but like, would you say it's like one time in the morning, or is it at night when you're having a drink, or how often do you usually use the ice?
Probably at morning and at night. Probably at the beginning of my day fairly often, and then around dinner time probably are the most frequent times.
Okay, so a little bit more about like your actual drinking experience. What would you say makes your best beverage experience?
The ice is definitely a big part. How much ice is in it is definitely a big part. And then, I mean, with the drink itself, just it not being flat. If it's carbonated, it not being flat. And if it's got some kind of flavoring in it, not being flat on the flavoring.
Okay, so you mentioned the right amount of ice. What would you say the right amount of ice is? Like, if any kind of drink you have, maybe it depends on the kind of drink that you're having at that time. But like, what would you say your most ideal amount of ice is?
Probably like a third of the cup full.
Okay. So, and that's specifically with the smaller ice cubes, would you say?
Definitely with the smaller ice. With larger ice, maybe a little bit less because it'll melt more, but about the same.
Okay. And how often would you say you're hanging out by yourself at the house or something, and you have a beverage with some ice in it?
Probably once, maybe twice a day.
Okay. And how often would you say, like you go out to eat at a restaurant or something like that? I know that pretty much every restaurant puts ice in their drinks. So, how often do you usually have an ice beverage out and about?
I'll have ice in my drink every time I go out. I never order a drink without ice. I'd say I probably will go out and eat a handful of times a week, maybe 3 or 4 times a week.
Okay, and would you say that you prefer having an ice beverage at your house or going out at a restaurant?
Probably more so at a restaurant. I feel like restaurants normally have better ice than I do at my house.
So what makes you say that the restaurant has better ice than at your house?
I think the shape and size and type of it. At home, it's usually just that big kind of cubed sort of ice that's fine but melts faster and puts more water into your drink. A restaurant with nugget ice or different shapes or something like that, maybe it's just better because it's different, but I tend to enjoy out more.
I get it. So would you say when you're having a drink, would you say that you prefer to drink it quicker or enjoy it a little bit longer? Because I know that there's certain ice that the ice will melt a little bit quicker or a little bit slower. So would you say you like to enjoy it a little bit longer or get the drink down a little quicker?
If it's a soda or a carbonated drink, I'll drink it faster because I don't like for the ice to melt and water it down. But if it's like a lemonade or something that's not carbonated and just the flavor, I'll usually drink it slower because I don't mind when it gets watered down.
Yeah, the watered down's a pretty big part of it. I mentioned a little bit earlier about having like drinks with friends or when you're getting ice, it's usually with friends. So when you are with your friends, do you notice that they use the same ice that you do, or do certain people get different ice or use different ice than you do?
Every once in a while, I'll be with someone that orders a drink with no ice. I feel like that's pretty rare. Besides that, everyone's pretty much always the same.
Yeah, it's usually a little easier, just get the same ice. Do you have any friends or family members that are kind of avid ice people? Or
my sister is an avid ice person. My sister loves, I like the Chick-fil-A ice. She loves the Chick-fil-A ice. She'll halfway get the Chick-fil-A drink just to get the ice, and she will always finish it out of the cup. She won't let me throw the cup away if it still has ice in it.
Okay, do you have any input as to why she likes the ice so much?
I don't know. I think she's one of those people that likes to just chew on things. She's a gum chewer too, so that might be part of it. I also think it's a texture thing for her. She's kind of a foodie person too, so I think she likes the texture.
Yeah, it's a nice shape. It's good to look at in a drink. So, would you say that you use ice more on your own or out with groups of people?
Out with groups of people, for sure.
Yeah, because, like you said, at a restaurant, pretty much every single time you're going to be ordering ice or using ice in some way. So, okay, I want to ask you about if you have a story or not. If you have a somewhat memorable ice beverage experience, maybe the best one. And again, if you can think of one, the worst ice beverage experience, and more importantly, what made that the best experience you had or the worst experience you had?
Okay. Best. At the Little League that I played at when I was a kid playing baseball, they had kind of like a shaved ice, kind of powdered ice sort of thing that they would use for the snow cones, but they'd also use that for drinks. And it was probably a little bit of childhood nostalgia, but I also always enjoyed that because it was different and it kind of made it more like a slushie or something, and it always kept it colder. So that was a good ice experience. A bad one, I really don't like it when you get a drink from like a fast food place to go that doesn't have cups that keep temperature well. Like if it's a plastic cup that's clear and they don't put a lot of ice in there in the first place, so it melts fast and it waters it down. That's not specific, but specifically fast food chains, I'll get a drink from McDonald's fairly frequently. If they don't put a lot of ice in it and it's one of the clear plastic cups, that's usually a bad ice experience for me.
Okay, so you really don't like when the ice melts fast, waters the drink down.
That's the biggest factor, for sure.
Yeah, and then it kind of loses like the coldness of it too.
Yeah.
So, okay, so say you walk into a restaurant or you're getting ready to sit down and have a drink at your house. What's a deal breaker for you when you have an ice beverage? What makes it like you're gonna be like, yep, I want that drink, or no, I do not want that drink?
I think I'll for sure always take the nugget ice or the smaller ice if it's there. That's a plus deal breaker that I'll get it. I'll always get a drink from Chick-fil-A or a place like that because the ice is good and the drinks are good too. A negative deal breaker, especially if I'm at home, if the ice maker isn't working or if there's not a lot of ice left, I would prefer to just have no ice in a drink at all than not have very much, because at that point it's not really cooling it down much in the first place, and all it's really going to do is melt and water it down. So not at a restaurant or at home, if I'm not able to have very much, that's a negative deal breaker.
Okay, so if it's not your preference, then no ice at all. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, so one last question for you. It's kind of hitting on something I already asked you before. But if you had to have like a closing couple of sentences about what makes your ice beverage experience the best, how would you conclude that?
I think the shape and size of it is a big thing. It being smaller is better, and that kind of plays into the ratio of it. If there's not enough, like I said, and it's just gonna melt or water the drink down and not cool it off that much, that's not great. Also, if there's too much, some restaurants will try to fill a cup up all the way with ice so they don't have to give you as much of the drink. Both of those are negative. So I would say it being small, and if it's like nugget ice and has a good texture, that's great. And there not being too much or too little of it is the other big thing for me.
All right. Thank you, Will. You gave me some great insight there. So thank you very much for the interview.
Absolutely.